everyone, and welcome to AskPolymathGeddy, your polymathic source for all information, knowledge, and hopefully wisdom. Alyssa from Connecticut asked me, what other kind of book would you write? Now, for those of you that don't know, I am in fact already an author. I have written a book called Channels of Passage. It took me a long time to put this book together, and it's based on a lot of personal experience of mine. I describe it as classic romanticism, epic poetry storytelling, and what that means is it's poetry, but it's in kind of like a mini novel format. So there's 7 epics, and each epic contains 7 poems, and each epic is a mini story within the context of the grand scheme of things. And I will leave the link for it down below. Check the links, and you will be able to find it, and also free samples as well. And basically, it's a story of unrequited love, and I think everyone can relate to it. Everyone will find something in it for them. So definitely check that one out. As far as what other kind of book would I write? Well, it's funny you should ask, because I'm actually in the process of coming up with 2 other books that I've been working on and off for a number of years, actually. And the first book is assorted poetry, prose, and epics. I haven't come up with a very particular name for it yet. It's pretty much everything else that I've written in the poetry context that did not fit the Channels of Passage story. So my first poem when I was 9 years old that actually was published, I'm going to republish that in my book here, or I'm thinking of doing that. And I have other poems that I started writing when I was like 15. That's really when I started to acknowledge myself as a poet, or as a writer at least. And then, a few years later, I just completely engulfed myself in the idea of being a poet. But I was already writing poetry, but I thought it was more of a hobby, or more of like lyric writing for songs, not actually a poetry. So book 2 is going to be prose, poetry, and epics. Now, when I say prose, I don't really consider freestyle writing poetry. Poetry has to have a certain type of rhythm. It has to have a certain kind of rhyme scheme, pattern. There's more confines and more laws and standards that have to be upheld to be called poetry. As far as prose, it's more freestyle writing, train of thought kind of writing. I mean, you can have allegories and metaphors and so forth within the context of the writing, and you can use very pretty or poetic language in it. And so it is related to poetry, but it isn't exactly poetry. I don't consider it poetry anyway. There's strict form that is required for poetry. Now, that strict form could be a number of different ways, but it's still strict form. There's a rhyme scheme somewhere. There's a certain rhythm and flow somewhere. There's a certain number of syllables per line somewhere. There's got to be structure and form, otherwise it's not legit poetry. It's just cheating, or you can call it prose. And I do have some prose writing, which I think it's good to explore. It's basically a good ground for exploring your creative abilities. So if you use prose method, you can kind of write at the speed of thought and not worry about whether this rhymes with that, whether there's a certain number of syllables, or whether it flows good or not. You can just focus on getting the ideas out. And honestly, my prose is kind of rhythmic and does at times rhyme. It's just the nature of mine to force format in there, force some kind of structure and organization. But I'm very happy with the prose that I've written, and it came during times for me when I was very introspective and going through bouts of depression or isolation in life, or struggling, starvation, destitution, you name it. I've been through all kinds of things, and during these phases I've written at the height of my misery, and I'm going to publish this for you guys. And also epics, very important. I have some phenomenal epics, some of which I've written as a teenager, and some that I've written in my 20s and I'm still working on. So I want you guys to really read these and take the advantage of all of the introspection and studying and thought process and time I put into them. I think they can really benefit your lives. So that's book 2. There is going to be a book 3. That's the plan anyway. In book 3, I don't even know how to summarize this. The best way I can describe it, and I don't want to give too much away, Benjamin Franklin is known for being the head of many industries. I'm going to miss a whole bunch of careers. But he was a diplomat, he was a printer, he was a musician, he was, I would say, an inventor. He was founder of libraries, of fire departments, The list goes on of his profound abilities and accomplishments, and his knowledge too. And I want to write a book, and I have notes for it, and I'm already working on it and have great direction for it. It's hard to really summarize it. You will have writings on spirituality and theology. You'll have writings on mathematical equations, charts, antidotes of different things, political reform resolutions that I've come up with that I think can ironize and change the world in a positive, effective way. My personal address to society in terms of various issues, weighing various black and white scenarios and finding the middle ground of reality. Fitness, health, information, tips, advice, motivational essays, just a long list of ideas that I have for it. And there's a lot of great surprises that I'm working on in there, and it's going to be something that is really going to put me out there as more of a national figure, as a polymath, and not just a poet. Because right now people just know me as an author and a poet, but I'm actually a lot more than that. And I hope that you guys can actually get a chance to understand this and enjoy the third book. I'm working on different ways of publishing it this time. My first book went through a company that helped develop it for me, but I'm not happy with the royalty process, so I'm working on different ideas and juggling different ideas, but that's pretty much the answer to your question, Alyssa. I hope I answered it properly for you. So yes, the second book is going to be poetry, prose, and epics. The third book is going to be an assortment of a variety of topics, and there will probably be very, very little to no poetry at all in the third book. It's all essays, diagrams, graphs, charts, on and on and on. So reports, equations, different things that I've come up with, my musings, so to speak. And I'm going to share them with the world. And some of the answers I have for the world's problems will be in that book. Because I don't look at myself as just a small little mind doing small little things in the world. I think that human beings can have profound potential and profound ability to reach out into the world and to make a difference. And one person can change the lives of millions. And I want to make my voice heard. I want to make my voice resound throughout all the corners of the earth, so to speak. So I think I know a lot of the world's problems, and to me the answers come naturally. They're easier, for me I find it easier to solve world problems than to mop floors, if that makes any sense. I actually have the understanding on the dynamics between countries and human nature and our basic element, living as spiritual beings in a physical realm. All this stuff I understand very purely and naturally. It's easy for me. And yet I'm very passionate about it. When I see suffering in the world and I see a lack of fulfilled potential, it angers me. Because I get so frustrated at the fact that the human race is just letting itself go. And there's so much that we can do, that we have the power to control. We just need the right figureheads to inspire everyone to play their role and to make things happen. And I'm hoping to be one of those figureheads that can actually effect this type of change. So that's kind of what my answer is. It's kind of long-winded, but hey, if you want an answer, I might as well give you a long one. It's much easier than typing. So hope you liked it. Thank you again. And if for all you guys, if you want to send your questions in, email them to AskPolymathGeddy@gmail.com. It's the best and surest way for me to answer your question. Make sure you include your name, your location, and a brief, and I mean brief, paragraph describing your question. So give me your question and basically background context for your question. So thank you very much everyone for watching. Please share, and I will get to some more of your questions soon. Thank you very much.